Hi everyone. Welcome to the brief introduction of our paper titled, Family Negotiation in Joint Media Engagement with Creative Computing. This paper was presented by Junnan from the School of Design at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, Sari Widman from the School of Education at the University of Colorado Boulder, and Roque from the Department of Information Science at the University of Colorado Boulder. Joint Media Engagement, or JME, was coined by Takeuchi and Stevens in 2011 to refer to spontaneous and designed experiences of people using media together. Understanding family JME is essential to fostering productive, shared experiences with technologies. However, current family JME studies are mostly either lab-based or interview-based, and only a few involve families from non-dominant groups. In other words, current studies have limited perspectives of family JME dynamics, and more observational studies with more diverse demographics are needed. In this study, we approach family dynamics through the lens of negotiation, a concept grounded in the sociocultural learning perspective. According to sociocultural learning theory, learning is a dynamic process in cultural spaces, where individuals form and reform themselves and their relationships within and across communities, and consistently negotiate their roles and manage their participation in relationships with others. The current study, from a negotiation perspective, complements existing parent-child JME by highlighting family members' agency and the nuances of their back-and-forth interactions. We investigated family negotiation in an informal family learning program called Family Creative Learning. In the program, families historically marginalized in computing are invited to participate in a series of 4 to 5 workshops in community-based organizations like libraries and museums, during which they jointly create projects with creative computing technologies like Scratch and Makey. In this workshop implementation, families were invited to create a travel-related story using a coding app for young children named ScratchJr. We collected families making process data, artifact data, and reflective data through the means of screen recordings, field notes, photos, and interviews. For our data analysis, we ask how do family members engage in negotiation during joint creation with computing. This table shows an overview of the negotiation strategies employed by family members during co-making. The strategies were mainly centered around device control and creativity control. Next, I will introduce examples of some of the negotiation strategies. Negotiating device control is about negotiating who gets to operate the device. Some family members would request device access, such as asking for permission from each other to operate the device, assertively demanding to operate the device, reminding each other to take turns. This example shows a vignette of parent-mediated turn-taking between 2 sisters. In other cases, family members would step up for device control by pulling the device to their side or directly inputting on the device interface without asking for permissions first. Additionally, family members sometimes voluntarily stepped back from device control and invited participation from each other, especially when they needed help. This vignette illustrates an example of a child stepping back from device control when seeking help from parents about how to add a character to their project. Beyond device control, family members frequently negotiated creativity for their project, namely, what and whose ideas to be included and implemented in the project. For example, family members often invited creative input from each other and suggested ideas for each other's consideration. This vignette shows the parents Celso and Anna suggested adding an audio recording to a cat character, which was turned down by their daughter Camilla. When negotiating creativity, Family members also sometimes enforced the incorporation of their own ideas, directed project directions, gate-kept others' input, and remixed each other's ideas. In this vignette, the young boy Hamid did not like how his older brother Cal represented him in the project using an inappropriate character. Then he told their mother, who forced Cal to change it. In addition to the detailed negotiation strategies, different families demonstrated some common negotiation patterns, including: different families have different negotiation dynamics. Negotiation is an evolving and changing process for individuals. Younger ones tend to be disadvantaged in negotiation and experienced more unsuccessful attempts. And family members cared about how they were represented in their projects, a big factor driving negotiation. Based on the findings, we shared some key arguments about family JME. First, the negotiation lens captures the dynamics between family members in the joint making with technologies and highlights children's agency, such as the different roles they played that were typically invisible in the lens of parent roles. Second, family members adjusted their strategies to advocate for themselves during tensions in negotiation. Therefore, we argue that tensions in negotiation are important JME learning experiences. As such, the designs of JME learning experiences and technologies do not necessarily have to avoid all potential conflicts, but can instead embrace mechanisms that may give rise to tensions between family members. Third, the family's negotiation practices align with the productive JME principles shared by Takeuchi and Stevens, such as mutual engagement, dialogic inquiry, and boundary crossing. Therefore, we argue that negotiation is a form of productive JME. Accordingly, in JME experience and technology design, rather than avoiding tensions in negotiation, we need to recognize families' unique dynamics as important cultural assets for learning and respect their expectations of what is meaningful and productive for themselves. This is a brief overview of our paper. Thank you for your attention. For more details, please refer to the paper.